there is a charity movement going on. Someone took the liberty of signing us up to a challenge when we were at CPBS.
I would say that person was Matt. I volunteered myself.
Yes, you did?
And then he just assumed that you were in too. So
yes, because you speak for me, you can make decisions on my behalf, of course. So Mats came up to me and he says, "Oh, it's so cool that you're in on this, and you're great, thank you." And I go, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he says, "Well, you're gonna color your hair for Color Cloud." And I go, "I'm gonna do what now?" And he said, "Well, Nick said you were in the podcast, and blah blah. Thank you so much." And I went,
I did.
And then I looked at you, and I went, "I'm gonna do what now?" So I'm happy to know that you make decisions on behalf of both of us, and that you now got us into this mess. You want to tell the people what you got us into?
So the idea, this is not how that story went at all. Welcome, everyone, to the PowerPlatform Boost podcast, your weekly source of news and updates from the world of the Power Platform and the Microsoft community, with your host, Nick Dolman and Ulrikke.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PowerPlatform Boost podcast. I don't have to say that anymore because we have made an intro that we're running each time. I just forgot. So I can say, "Hi, Nick, how are you?"
Hi, Ulrikke, how are you doing? So we're back in our regular spots.
Mm-hmm. We are. And I'm alone in the office, the Altera office, because this is Monday. It's a bank holiday, so no one's here. So I can be recording out in the open. It's very nice. I have the river flowing past me. The sun is shining. It's so hot here. Spring has hit. It's fantastic. I'm so happy. I had a run today in the sun, and I'm so worked
up. Are you super excited?
I'm super excited. Yeah. So how's things your end? Because we're Canadians and Norwegians, we love to speak about the weather. So let's just check in. How's weather your end?
It's nice. It's sunny outside. It's warming up. Spring is here. We had the windows open over the weekend in the house to get that fresh air in. You know what it's like, that first getting that spring air through and everything like that. So it's time to, and then pretty soon we're going to be complaining about the heat. So we're well on our way.
Yeah, you can do that. I'm never complaining about heat. I never, ever complain about heat or sun. It's all good. Right. So we have had a couple of episodes where we've talked about a lot of other things than news and updates. So we have a bit of a backlog to get through, and we do want to honor your time as well. So we want to make sure that we're not over our 30-minute mark, but I think maybe today will be a bit over, and we have kind of a different strategy going here. So when I feel like I have a lot of things to talk about and not enough time, I will just say, okay, I'll limit what I say about each thing so that you guys get an idea, and then you can look things up yourself. Nick, on the other hand, wants to limit the things that he talks about and talk more about each thing. So we'll see if we get through all of Nick's things or my things. We'll see. So then this is good because then you get a bit of both.
Sure. So who gets to start?
You get to. It's on the top of the board. You get to start with Mark Carrington's thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mark Carrington. Okay, we're ready to go. Cool. So.
Is there a lag? Oh no, there's a lag. I hate it.
No.
There's a lag.
No, I think we're good.
Or you're just slow today.
So, probably. Yeah, definitely a little bit slow today. It's not a holiday
here. Maybe I'm
on
double speed. Oh,
maybe.
Okay, you go. Come on.
All right. We're talking about Mark Carrington. He posted a few weeks ago, and he kind of noticed that the Fetch XML documentation has been updated. Now, these are things that might have been there already, but maybe not so much fully documented. But because they are sort of supported as well. So if you use Fetch XML, there's a lot of new things. I'm not going to go through all of them because that would be an episode in itself. But to me, one of the cool things was be able to use Fetch XML to do cross table comparisons. So you could compare one thing in one table to the value of something in another table. Now, this is something that has always been is part of SQL, but now this is part of Fetch. So this also would help in creating your Fetch XML statements if you're doing development, and especially in things like Power Pages as well, which we do use a lot of Fetch if we're building custom web templates. So like I said, check out that article by Mark. And I think there's a few others on Fetch XML as well that kind of tie into this. So that's my first thing.
Nice.
So throwing the baton over to you.
Well, thank you. So my next item on the list, I think this came out a few weeks ago, but it is around the Security Hub that is now private preview. Now, for those of you who haven't heard about the Security Hub yet, it is one-stop shop for admins to look at security across the whole platform. It comes with new advanced data affiliation and protection features, and use Microsoft Sentinel for Power Platform, and integrates into the Power Platform apps and workflows and connections. So if you're into security and you're looking for this, then we have a link in the show notes to the Power Platform blog where you can read more about the Security Hub. And
cool.
There you go.
Now, this next thing, it says this is on my list, but I don't remember putting it here, but it still looks cool. It's
all right.
Yeah.
Let's look it up
Anna
then.
Anna Black.
Anna
and she,
Black, Power Platform Cookbook. No, maybe this is one of mine. So Anna, she's really on fire these days. She's publishing so many new cool things. I think this may be one of mine. So many blog posts. She's really got digging in and making a lot of blog posts. She has a blog called Power Platform Cookbook, the essential Power Platform and Dynamics 365 recipe. So it's kind of like a cookbook recipe thing where she's collecting a lot of things that you need to know about. So one of the blog posts that I put in the show notes is serving up a seamless deployment, my go live recipe. So this will take you through kind of the settings that she's making, what kind of configuration that she's doing to prepare her environment to go live. And so I just wanted to make sure that we shout out to Anna and for the brilliant work that she's doing. And yeah, this is actually one of mine. And I have another one, so there I could just keep going. Benedict Bergman. I keep going because Benedict Bergman, we're on the committee for Nordic Summit together, and I know Benedict I love his blog post and the community content that he puts out. And he has made a blog post about environment versus source control strategy. So the thing is, because you've been working with this for a long while, right? We have we have had solutions always that you can export in from one environment and import into another, right? ALM, application lifecycle management. It's something I'm really, for some reason, passionate about. I get passionate about a lot of things. So what he's doing is he's looking at that approach where you kind of push solutions downstream from one environment to another, test, dev, test, prod. And another new kind of way of looking at this is pushing from one environment to source code, and then pushing from source code to the other environments. That's more of a developer way of looking at this, maybe. And then you kind of have a third option. If you look at those two, you can actually combine the two, where you use Power Platform pipelines, for instance, will automatically download both an unmanaged and a managed solution for you. You can put that into your repo and have that in source control, but it also pushes the solutions through the downstream environments for you. That's kind of combining the two. And he's looking at each approach, and he's looking at the pros and the cons for each of the approaches. And I really just love the way that he's organized the blog post, so easy to read, and really a must-have if you're working with ALM and in the Power Platform.
Very cool. Yeah. No, it's Benedict's amazing. Like, I love his articles and stuff. Very technical, but very, very approachable and easy to absorb his content.
Oh, next one is also mine. And this has to do with this. So it's a segue to myself, because this is blocked. Because you can now, you just keep laughing at me. This is my current mood. It's like, Oh, my brain's wiring, just firing off in all directions. Okay, sorry, people. I'll try to dial it down. All right. So you know how you now can block unmanaged customizations in environments in the Power Platform, right? So this is mainly for production. It will, if you're trying to make a new app in your production environment with the blocking of unmanaged configurations or customizations enabled, it will tell you that you're not allowed to, right? It makes a lot of sense for a lot of scenarios, but what we've seen lately is a rush of blog posts and videos where people are picking this apart. Because if you have customer insights on your environment, that will create a lot of unmanaged layers. If you have Power Pages, you have Power Automates connected to that, that will try to create an unmanaged layer. It will actually stop you from using the environment the way that you're used to. It's not a perfect solution. So Pravez Guama made a blog post twofold. It's two blog posts that are connected about block unmanaged customizations, the bad news. I really like this. So it's a 3-part series that he's discussing the newly released feature. And if you're looking into using this, make sure that you check out this blog post first so that you know what you're getting yourself into. And I think also Vivian Voss, last episode, we talked about one of her blog posts as well, where she goes through what actually breaks in customer insights when you have this enabled. So definitely something to look out for. And then there's another segue here.
And this is mine, finally.
Finally.
Yeah. So pretty cool on this one. It's pipelines for all public preview, easily set up pipelines in the Power Platform. So of course, we posted. I posted blogs on this myself, and then I've gone through this many times of creating a pipeline to move stuff from one environment to the other. Now, this looks like it's, if you're more of a pure maker and not really an ALM person, to set that up, you need to set up a host environment. You need to set up a whole bunch of other things to make that pipeline work. You need like the environment IDs, and there's a whole bit. It's not hard, but it's just a lot of tedious work to put that all together. You kind of got to know your way around the Power Platform environment. Now, this seems like it's more of a type of a wizard kind of thing where you have a solution and you can actually tell it to go and create a pipeline for you. So basically, as soon as you get to the pipelines page, then you can actually create that pipeline yourself as a maker and then deploy it that way. So basically, this just sort of, gets some of that work away from the admins and put it back in the hands of the makers, and then also helps them sort of adopt some of those healthy ALM practices. So yeah, pretty neat to see. I definitely am going to check that out to see how that works. And that just sort of saves people from doing the old downloading a zip file and uploading it. And do you remember if we uploaded it and where would you just save it and all these other things? So yes, very cool stuff.
Very good. And that was private preview. That means you have to, or public preview, you have to sign up and enable it in your environment. So yeah, okay.
No, it should be available for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I signed up for that a couple of weeks ago, and then I had to actually register for it. But if it's public preview, then it's up for you to try. And you have another one.
I do. So
on the list.
Have you ever had to go through and create service principles?
Yes, I have.
So you got to go through, you create your app registration, you create the secret, you set the API permissions, you have to create an application user, then you have to assign those permissions, the application user. And it's just, it's something you don't have to do every day, but it is something that's very tedious, and you got to remember what you got to do. And of course, people get confused because into the app registrations, I think it's still called dynamic CRM in some places where, we're like, but I don't use CRM. I'm building Power Apps. Well, yeah, it's sort of from the legacy.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole, please.
not
it's
today.
For another day. Not today.
Yeah.
But what you get in return is so cool. Do you think that everyone knows what a service principal is? Can you tell the people that don't know what it is?
Tell the people, why would I bother with the service principal? So then this way, you know what it's like. So maybe you've been in this position before. You set up, let's just say even something like a Power Automate flow. You set this flow, you set up for your client, and then you move on to another project or you move on to a new job. And then all of a
Yep.
sudden that flow quits working because they disabled your account. And then of
Mm-hmm.
course they're freaking out because it's like, oh, why isn't this flow working? Oh, because Nick left and we have to re-enable his account. Well, but that's going to use up a license and this and that and the other thing. Do. So what are we going to do? This is where a service principal comes in. You set up a service principal. It becomes sort of the application, it like a non-interactive user, that application user. So you can use that service principal for running your flows and stuff, and don't have to worry about people leaving or getting shut off when they leave or their account gets activated. So of course you need to set up your flow to use that service principal, but you need to create the service principal. And to do that, like I said, there's a whole bunch of steps. So Carl D'Souza posted a really interesting thing about using the PAC CLI. Now, the PAC CLI is the PowerPlatform command line interface, and it's basically you run it in PowerShell. So yes, it is PowerShell coding. It's kind of command line based, which might be a little intimidating to some people, but it's really not that bad. Even if you follow his blog post, it's basically you just type in a set of commands and then it will go through and do all of these things for you. So basically all you need is the environment ID and then bing, bang, boom, just put all your ingredients in a pot and boom, out comes the finished service principal for you.
But then your user needs to have access to make that in Azure anyways, right? So you're not enabling anyone that doesn't have the rights to do that in the first place. So that it's still an admin task. It's just way easier to program it into kind of a pipeline. Or if you have some script that will enable or set up environments for you, you can also set up the service principal. It's kind of an admin tool to make things easier, right? And did you say that the service principal can run flows and doesn't require a license?
No. You still need in your environment, you still need some licensing there. But in terms of the user, that's this goes, and I don't have my head fully wrapped around it, but you have a pool of flow runs and things like that. So it still pulls from that pool of flow runs that gets licensed through other users and that type of thing. So you still need the licensing somewhere, somehow. But it's not so much it's tied to that user. Now, there are, of course, using service principals, there are things like the Outlook connector, for example. You still need an actual mailbox user and stuff like that. But for other things, the service principal is like for doing Dataverse stuff. That's just sort of a way to,
It's not that long ago that we weren't able to use service principals for Dataverse, right? Because I've been using that for Azure stuff forever. And for also Graph, I've been using service principals, but I don't think we were able to do that up until recently. So
you could always set up a non-interactive user. And you could do that for years. Principal.
Well, I'm not sure. Well, maybe I'm.
I think it has been around, just not well known, I guess.
So. Okay. And this up until now has been very admin heavy, and we're not really PowerPlatform admins, any of us. We do a lot of admin stuff because you're working with a PowerPlatform, you're used to having all the hats, and that includes the admin stuff. So we've all been working as admins, but we're not pure admins, and I think none of us really are. I think there's few people that their job is to be 100% PowerPlatform admins. Usually it's the person at the company that knows the most about PowerPlatform. They get, and this is you're responsible because you know the most about it. And then you get kind of inherit those tasks. And so I don't know if that's the reason why, but I found a very good resource this week. And it's a blog series from Michael Roth and Craig White that's called What Every Admin Should Know. It's on Michael Roth's blog, as far as I know. I think it's a collaboration. Yep. And they talk about things like breaking glass accounts, for where you have kind of this one account that is able to break glass, kind of break into all the other things. How to set up an account like that and how to make sure that that's protected well enough. Password management and do's and don'ts for admin. And just a quote from Craig says, Did you know that 59% of adults in the USA uses birthdays or names in their passwords? So that's according to top password statistics, and they have a link to it. So kind of those must knows, should knows, and best practices for admin in terms of, from the PowerPlatform perspective, and really, really great resource to get through. So if you have been assigned that hat because you're the most knowledgeable person about PowerPlatform in your organization, like someone else here is, then that's something you really should look at.
Yeah. Michael Ross blogs in general are required reading for anybody doing admin or governance in the Power Platform. Just his content's excellent. His presentations are phenomenal. If you're ever at a conference or a user group and he's presenting, just go to his sessions. Totally worth it. Get front row, get your notebook ready, and just be prepared to be bombarded with info.
Yeah, I know. And such a great guy as well. So,
oh, yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. Next item on your list, on our list, is yours. Is it Power Pages related?
It is Power Pages related. It's interesting. I
should sure hope that you think that that's interesting. Enough with the admin stuff already. We need to grab some Power Pages related stuff. Yep.
Well, there is some other Power Pages stuff, but one that's really interesting is the ability to. This one is a blog, and I'm just trying to go there, and of course, it keeps trying to bump me through LinkedIn for some reason.
Because it's a LinkedIn link.
I did
see this as well. Tell the people what you're looking at.
So basically, what it is the ability to add a camera control, which we could do in Power Apps forever, in Canvas apps. But now it's adding it to a Power Pages site. So think about that. That's pretty interesting because, this way you can, if you're using, Power Pages on a mobile device or something like that, or you want to upload images, before you'd always have to, take a picture, save it, and then upload it as a file into your Power Pages site. So this way, he's actually integrated that using into Power Pages, and it's kind of ingenious how he's gone through and done that using the HTML5 camera control. And built that into the Power Pages site to get those pictures up there. So a bit of coding involved, a bit of this to display the variables and everything. The blog post is a whole bunch of different steps there to go through that whole bit. And that's by Namasi Navrataram. He's a software engineer at King County. So yeah, great blog post. Definitely check that out. If this is something that's come across your, I need to actually get this done and to do this list. So yeah.
And it's very cool to see how they're utilizing. So the HTML5 camera control will trigger the camera control on your phone, and kind of that app thinking that, we're mobile first in this day and age, and Power Pages is built on Bootstrap 5, which is mobile first. And so you have all of these new capabilities that you don't often think about when you're building a website. So I love the fact that he's kind of bringing that in as well, that, you can use the native mobile features as well on your phone. So that's really cool. And, just a great resource. I saw that as well. So nice that you put it in there.
Yeah, cool.
Never. Have you guys heard about the XRM toolbox? Because that is another toolbox, not a toy box. It's a toolbox. And one of the people that started building tools for the XRM toolbox very early on was Jonas Rapp, Swedish developer and PowerPlatform evangelist, one of the OGs in my book, at least. I'm still starstruck when I sit at restaurants with Jonas. And he made a blog post this week about hidden gem in Fetch XML builder that he wrote back in the day. And I think maybe this is also spurred on by a podcast episode that they did, because there's a podcast called XRM Toolcast that was originally by Jonas Rapp and the other founding fathers of the XRM Toolbox, to talk about the different tools that came up and stuff around that ecosystem of the XRM Toolbox. But now it's evolved to be a podcast about technology. I was actually recording an episode with Scott and Daryl just the other week. I know you were on the Extreme Toolcast as well just a couple of months
Yep.
ago. So it's kind of evolved into a bigger thing in the community. And I listened back to an episode that is a couple of months old, I think, with Mark Carrington and Chris Pisacki and Matt Beard, where they go through the different things of the XRM toolbox that they didn't know about. And these are people that have worked with and used this tool for ages and ages, and they were able to tell each other about hidden buttons and weird if you delete some file, if you delete the default connecting file, that it actually force you to put things into connection lists and stuff I never thought about because I use this tool all the time. And to get that from the experts and they actually teaching each other things, throughout the episode, that was awesome. So even if you have use Extreme Toolbox for ages and ages, chances are you'll listen to that episode and you'll learn something new. So both check out the episode from Jonas Rapp and also the episode of the Extreme Toolcast. We'll put it in the show notes.
That's amazing. I think we should have more of those sessions. Did you know that? And see if, because I think there's a lot of things that we didn't know.
And exactly to that point, I also submitted to a couple of conferences this fall a session suggestions, and one of them is actually going through the Power Pages management app, because to this day, I estimate kind of half of the advanced functionality in Power Pages is still hidden in the PMA. Mm-hmm. And people don't know. They add a list to it and they think, I wish this list could give me something or a filter or something that you're not able to do through the designer. I want to walk you guys through the advanced stuff that you can do from that. So I think, this is good. Let's get into the details and more into the advanced stuff for sure.
Yeah. So it's it's interesting. So you were on that podcast, and we'll talk about another one in a few minutes. But then the other thing I noticed, I guess we are jumping around a little bit, going back to solutions. We probably put through that solutions thing in the mix a little bit higher up. But this just came out, I think, just this past week. But the ability to redeploy past solution versions using pipelines. That's cool, because think about it. If you do your thing, you deploy it, everything's cool. Then you realize, oh shoot, because of this new thing, we broke something else. Like this is, I think a lot of the work that we do, fix one thing, break two more, happens a lot I think it happens to everybody at some point. And then what do? You have to either fix the two things that got broke and keep the original thing fixed, or sometimes you need to roll back. And rolling back in the Power Platform it's one thing to deploy using solutions, but now we need to roll back. So that means you have to kind of get that previous solution and roll back and things it's a bit painful, but this gives you the ability now to roll back using the pipelines, meaning, we need to roll back to this version, so we can actually select the previous, go to the run history, and then redeploy the previous version. So we also need to make sure that, and there's a new configuration option to allow redeployment of older versions, because sometimes you import a solution, it will say, ooh, this is an older version, or it's going to block you. So this is something I haven't tried yet, but this was something that kind of came out of nowhere, and I'm really excited to see that. This is something that we've probably been asking for in some way or another, but this is just going to make life a little bit easier when you do run into that issue, oh shoot, we need to actually go back, as opposed, and then give you time to breathe and fix what needs to be fixed properly, as opposed to scrambling and being in a reactive mode versus a proactive mode.
Yeah, absolutely. And that ties very well to the next thing that you have on here as well. Let's just dive into that quickly. Solution dependencies.
So basically, that's another thing. So anybody that's worked with working with solutions and stuff, how many times? Everybody, put your hands up if you run into this, deploying a solution and it says, "Oh no, you're missing dependencies." Actually, over the weekend on the project we're working on, one of the other folks did ping me and said, "Hey, we're missing stuff." Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was a whole Power Pages thing, which I sorted out. But this is the great thing. This is something else that you have that new. This was something that exists before, where you could actually try to identify the dependencies for particular solution objects. But now it's a little bit better organized, easier to understand,
Mm.
and has some new essential actions that you can take appropriate actions, including getting those dependencies in there, or even removing the dependency, and what does that mean,
Oh, wow.
and
That's a
focusing
big
on,
announcement.
yeah, so what's kind of
Hmm.
blocking and things like that. So that's something else to check out as well. Ties into that whole solution deployment, because that's one thing where, yes, you deploy the wrong solution, you need to roll back, but then there's, okay, we need to push the solution, and it's not letting you because there's
Yeah.
dependencies there that are missing. Of course, a lot of those dependencies get added accidentally by unmanaged layers that we talked about earlier, blocking that. Of course,
Mm.
we're still not in a complete perfect utopia yet, but these types of tools just help make our day, so we can save hours trying to troubleshoot and try to figure out what's going on when we're rolling solutions through to our, prod environments. So definitely check
And we'll
that
never
out.
never get to that perfect world because we need that dynamic. We need the flexibility because different projects require different things and there are different dynamics and different teams. And the first thing that we had to sit down and agree upon when we started this project, for instance, was how are we gonna, what's our solution strategy like? What's our environment strategy like? Will all developers use their own developer environments and push to dev and then push to how do we want to work in this project? And you have to do that for every project because everything is different. And so the platform needs to be as flexible so that it allows for different things. And I think, part of the block customized, the unmanaged layers also for production, it's not meant for environments with Dynamics 365 customer insights. It's not meant for that. It's meant for other things. And you can, complain about that as much as you want. But you have to look at the dynamic and the flexibility that gives to someone that really needs that. That's perfect. That meets the requirement. And for all the other people that breaks half their solution, you don't use it. It's kind of, yeah, it's rah and complain, rant, but at the end of the day, you just have to pick what's right for your project, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But these tools just make it a little bit smoother.
Yeah, definitely. It's yeah, very, very good. And I feel so half the time because I talk a lot about the Power Platform pipelines, because I do have sessions on that, for a lot of conferences. And one of the things I hear the most is that, yes, this is one of the fact that you get alerted to the dependencies that you have to fix up front when you use the Power Platform pipelines instead of after the fact. Because if you export your solution, you import it into another environment, you get an alert when you import it to say that, oh, there are missing dependencies here. With Platform pipelines, you get that warning up front, and it shows you what you're missing and what you have to do about it. So I think this is also one of those things where you get that message up front and you can be a bit more proactive, and I love it. So very, very good. Just to close things off, I have a couple of recommendations in terms of podcast episodes because I love listening to podcasts. So, on Air in the Cloud, they have an episode with Chris Huntingford where they talk about the future of platform development and Copilot and AI and what that means for us as developers. And he actually say something along the lines of, if you are looking at making Power Apps, Canvas apps as your majority of the work that you want to do in the next 10 years, you have to look at that again, because we're not going to be making apps that way for 10 years down the line. It's going to change. The way that we make apps, the way we look at developing apps is going to change. So if that's your primary work, then you have to look at that again. And also, so that's really a good episode to listen to. And I know you're on that podcast as well, right? You recorded something just a couple of
Yep. Yeah,
weeks
recorded
ago.
with
Yeah. Thanks.
Keith last week, and I'm not sure exactly when it's coming out, but yeah, we talked. Yeah, we talked a whole whack of things. Talked about you too, so your ears might have been burning. So you'll have to see when it comes out.
Uh-oh.
All good stuff. All good stuff.
I'm sure. All right. And also another thing I wanted to mention, because so I read a book ages and ages ago called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And Mark Manson, the author of the book, he started a podcast where he brings on different guests and they talk about different topics. Now, he's a developer way back when, and then he was an entrepreneur, and now he's an author. But he has a lot of good perspectives into what it's like to be working as a developer and as a technologist. And one of the guests that he had on recently is an author about on a book, a productivity expert, and it's how to accomplish far more while working less, and that ties so well into what Chris was talking about on the air in the cloud, and so many conversations that we had throughout MVP Summit with all of our fellow MVPs. And I see this in the community so much these days when technologists are afraid of their job, and so many good things in that ties to what we do every day. So yeah, just wanted to mention that, and we'll put links in the show notes, of course. And now we are on to the conference part of our podcast. I know that we're 5 minutes over. We need to take a few minutes to talk about the upcoming conferences that we're going to. And first up is Color Cloud. And we have a €5 discount. That's the first thing. So you can, we both have a discount code for €5 off of your ticket price. We'll put that in the show notes. And there is a charity movement going on. Someone took the liberty of signing us up to a challenge when we're at CPPS.
I would say that person was Matt. I volunteered myself.
Yes, you did.
And then he just assumed that you were in too. So
yes, because you speak for me, you can make decisions on my behalf, of course. So Mats came up to me and he says, "Oh, it's so cool that you're in on this. And you're great. Thank you." And I go, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he says, "Well, you're going to color your hair for Color Cloud." And I go, "I'm going to do what now?" And he said, well, Nick said you were in the podcast and blah, blah, blah. Thank you so much. And I went,
I did.
And then I looked at you and I went, I'm going to do what now? So I'm happy to know that you make decisions on behalf of both of us, and that you now got us into this mess. You want to tell the people what you got us into?
So the idea, this is not how that story went at all. But
I know.
So basically, yeah, it is I think it started like for Carl Cookson. It was a bet between him and Mats or something that if you're able to raise €1,000, I'll color my hair, thinking, whatever. So it's sort of like, okay, game on. And so Cookie is already, so the way they've done it is, this kind of grew to other people sort of signing up, like Andrew Bibby, Sarah Lagerquist, William Dorrington. We're in there, a few others. So there's a list. And then as the numbers go up, the goal is to reach €10,000. And then every time they hit that milestone of €1,000, then the next person's up. So far where we're at, Carl Cookson is in, Andrew Bibby is in. I think now they're raising money for Sarah Lagerquist to be in. And then eventually you'll get
Chris
to a point where
Chris Huntingford is in there, and they're going to do tattoos. Right? So yes. I think Anna and Chris are going to do tattoos.
Yeah, I think Will might be in on that too. But it's not only that. I guess they get to pick the tattoo. So it's not like, it's not like Chris's, it's his first tattoo. I think this is his 100th basically, but it actually might even be a SharePoint tattoo. So who knows how that's going to.
And I saw a comment kind of section between Chris and Donna as well, because Chris said maybe I'll just do the Copilot logo or icon, and then Donna wasn't having any of that. So yeah, We'll see what it ends up being. And actually, there's no rules or regulations, in terms of what kind of color they're gonna color their hair. So I think we are probably gonna dye our hair in whatever color we want. And as you said, as they put all of our names on the list and you kind of unlock people as you go along. I think at the bottom is Mark Christie, and he's going to color his hair and beard bright red. So that's a €10,000. So if you can get to that point, come on, people. It's just, yes.
Yep.
So that's where we want to go. I think we're at 5,000. So
yeah, I think we're about halfway mark. So
Yeah, so if people donate more than 5,000, then we have to dye our hair. And we were looking at, okay, what kind of colors do you want? And we're actually thinking about allowing our listeners, you guys, to make that decision. So next week, so we're posting this is going to go live on Wednesday. The week after, we usually do boost quests every the week that we're not publishing an episode. We're going to release some AI pictures of us with different hair colors. And if you make a donation to this Color Cloud charity, I don't know, what do you call it, series or effort, then you get to vote what kind of color you want us to dye our hair. And if we get to that point where they actually want us to do it, then we'll just pick the colors that have the highest votes. How's that?
Sounds good. Let's make it happen. It's for a good cause.
Oh my God.
Good causes.
It is for a lot of good causes. I think because all of us got to choose different charities to give to, and then they just put all of those in for our names. And so the charity, the money that you give to that charity, this kind of, I don't know, we call it program or effort.
Initiative.
Initiative, thank you. It goes through to that charity that the person chose. So it's such a good thing. And I just love the effort. And yeah, absolutely. We're up for these kind of things. It's very fun to be a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Right.
Alrighty. So yeah, there's a whole whack of other things coming up, which I think we've talked about already before of where we'll be and where we're going. So just in the essence of the fullness of time, we're already a little bit over where we should be, but
yeah. And and also I know that we're over, but I want to take 2 minutes to talk about something that was a bit more personal. So if you just don't care and you've got your news and updates, you want to move on, that's completely fine. But I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the fact that we do appreciate us being in a position where we get to go to a lot of these conferences. We get to travel the world. We get to see the great community that we're a part of throughout the year. We're very privileged, and we do recognize that. And both of us have kids. So you have a daughter. She's, 15 now? Yeah?
Yep.
Big girl?
Yep.
Yeah, a lot more independent. I have 2 kids. They're 6 and 11. Not so independent yet. And my boy, when I came back from Seattle and Canada last, he was in pieces. He was having such a hard time with me being away for that long. It was a week and a weekend. And he asked me desperately, can you please stop being away for so long at the time? And I made him a promise that I won't go away for more than a week the year to come. We agreed that I could go away for a long weekend. He was fine with that. I kind of had this conversation with my 6-year-old that, he needs me and he needs me to be there. And we had things planned. We had a very exciting opportunity at Resco conference, for instance, Resco Next, that we kind of had to put a pin in. Maybe we revisit that next year. I did have other things that I was looking into being a part of that I had to cancel. And it is important to me to kind of also show that side of all the things that we get to do, because we do have to think about the fact that we have families that are relying on us, and it looks so glamorous and we get to travel the world. It looks amazing, but there is also a time to dial it down, to take a step back and to kind of look at the whole schedule, the whole year, and make sure that you get that balance right. So yeah, I'm turning things down, and there's a good reason for it.
Yeah, and then not just for our families, but for ourselves as well. Like sometimes just a break is needed and we get it. Like we love it. I love traveling. I love being around the world, but it's it's just being present with the people that love you and you love them. So it's definitely important.
Yeah.
And sometimes for yourself to take a bit of a breather and kind of settle. So all good. Yeah,
definitely.
And appreciate it.
And in a couple of weeks, we're actually gonna combining the two. So you bring your family to Norway. We all get to meet and have fun and go troll hunting and barbecue sausages on sticks over an open fire and stick bread, and you don't know what. I'm going to introduce you to all the crazy Norwegian things that we do. We're going to have so much fun, and I can't wait for our families to finally meet, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds cool. All right.
Perfect. All right. So our next episode is going to be April 17th. And in the meantime, the week in between, make sure to look out for that Boost quest where you get to vote for what color we're going to dye our hair. I can't wait to go into Midjourney or Microsoft Designer and just look, make those pictures. It's going to be so much fun. So yeah, we'll see you then.
All right. Sounds good. See ya.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. And if you like this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues in the community. Make sure to leave a rating and review of your favorite streaming service, and makes it easier for others to find us. Follow us on the social media platforms and make sure you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening to the PowerPlatform Boost podcast with your hosts, Ulrikke Åkerbeck and Nick Dolman, and see you next time for your timely boost of PowerPlatform news.